Caring for aging parents is one of those deeply emotional journeys that almost all of us are going to have to take at some point. And man, it brings up some massive internal conflicts. Are we doing it out of obligation, guilt, or is it genuine love? Well, in this explainer, we're diving into that exact struggle, and we're going to look at it through two very different lenses: modern psychology and ancient Buddhist wisdom. Let's jump right in.
So picture this. What happens if you look at your bank account and see exactly $0? Just completely emptied out because you spent every last cent trying to make your elderly parent more comfortable. Is draining your life savings for them a toxic trauma response that's just born out of guilt? Or is it actually a profound act of enlightened compassion? Let's ground this in a real-world scenario from our sources. We'll call it the massage chair scenario. Imagine you see your mom or dad wincing in physical pain every single day. They worked hard their whole lives, right? Probably sacrificing a lot of their own comfort for yours. So you decide to spend everything you have, literally your entire life savings, on a top-of-the-line massage chair to ease their aching back. You're left totally destitute financially, but emotionally, you're completely certain of your choice. Now, if we look at this through the lens of modern psychology, we immediately start questioning the motive. Psychology throws up some red flags, warning us against self-repression. Like, are you just doing this to ease your own survivor's guilt because you have a better life than they did? Doesn't act like this just trap you in a cycle of codependency? But Buddhism takes a completely different route. It doesn't obsess over why your ego did it. Instead, it focuses on dissolving the ego entirely, so you can act purely for the sake of another human being. And that brings us to a really foundational Buddhist concept called Senrin Shoujo, which roughly translates to threefold purity. This is essentially the ultimate enlightened state of giving. It is the absolute absence of keeping score. In our modern transactional world, giving usually comes with some kind of strings attached, even if it's just secretly wanting a thank you. While Senrin Shoujo is what happens when all of those strings have been completely cut. So, true Senrin Shoujo actually relies on three specific conditions. First, the giver gives freely, with zero regret and absolutely no expectation of gratitude. Second, the receiver accepts the gift completely free of any feeling of debt or obligation. And third, the gift itself is entirely stripped of attachment, meaning once it leaves your hands, it is gone, and you honestly don't care how it's used. When all three of those things align, you've hit true, pure giving.
Let's apply that back to the massage chair. Imagine handing it over to your parent and saying, hey, even if you don't use it, you can just keep it as a decoration. That specific mindset is a total game changer. By telling them it can literally just sit there in the corner, you're completely removing their burden of having to use it just to please you. And at the same time, it's a massive psychological safety net for you. If they never even plug the thing in, you're not going to get angry because you've practiced the ultimate modern embodiment of non-attachment.
But okay, let's be real for a second, because this forces us to ask a pretty uncomfortable question. What if you look deep down and you realize your underlying motive wasn't pure, enlightened non-attachment at all? What if you actually bought that chair out of deep pity or some really heavy survivor's guilt? Does that mean the act itself is inherently toxic or wrong? I mean, psychology might suggest it's a huge risk to your mental health. Well, Buddhism answers that fear with this incredibly beautiful metaphor, the mud and the lotus. Think about it. A lotus flower only grows in muddy, murky water. It literally uses that gross dirt to bloom into something stunning and pure. In this metaphor, the impure mud is our messy human emotions, our guilt, our pity, our selfish desire to just feel like a good son or daughter. Buddhism teaches us that this mud is actually the required nutrient for the beautiful lotus of true compassion to eventually bloom. You really don't need to be perfectly pure to do something good. The 9th century Buddhist master Kukai captured this reality with a pretty heavy-hitting thought. He wrote, born, born, born. Dark at the beginning of life, die, die, die. Dark at the end of death. I know, it sounds super bleak, right? But Kukai is really just reminding us that we are all navigating the fundamental darkness and confusion of existence. None of us asked to be here, and for being honest, none of us really know exactly where we're going. In Kukai's view, we are all just wandering together in this dark room. And when you choose to give a gift to ease someone's suffering, like dropping all your cash on that massage chair for a parent in pain, you aren't magically fixing the universe. You are simply lighting a small candle in that shared darkness. The fact that the light comes from a place of messy human guilt, that doesn't even matter. What matters is that it brings a little bit of warmth to the dark. Consider how the founder of the Japanese Tendai sect, Saicho, viewed himself. He famously declared, "I am the worst among fools." Now, this wasn't just low self-esteem or a plea for sympathy. Saicho was an elite, brilliant scholar who practiced intense, life-threatening mountain asceticism. And yet, he actively and openly embraced his own ultimate foolishness. Why would he do that?
He did it because there is immense power in embracing your own weakness. By recognizing our own profound flaws, our own total inability to be perfectly pure, we completely destroy our arrogant ego. Think about it. If you believe you're the grand savior swooping in to rescue your poor parents, you are entirely trapped in your own ego. But if you realize you are just as flawed, foolish, and vulnerable as they are, that opens the door to genuine, unpretentious empathy. You help them not from a pedestal above them, but from right there beside them.
And this totally embraces a core paradox taught by another legendary monk, Shinran. He famously said, "Even a good person attains birth in the Pure Land, how much so the evil person?" Now, on the surface, that sounds entirely backwards, doesn't it? Why in the world would an evil person be more likely to find salvation than a good one? Well, this quote actually paves the way for one of the most radical concepts in all of Eastern philosophy.
This radical idea is known as Aknin Shoki, and it completely flips our standard expectations upside down. It states that heaven, or the Pure Land, isn't built as a reward for the perfect, pure individuals who have it all together. No, it's built specifically for the flawed, guilty, desire-ridden, and imperfect people among us. The so-called good person relies proudly on their own ego, but the evil person, which really just means the normal, struggling human, knows they need help, and that makes them the primary target for divine compassion.
What all these masters are telling us is incredibly freeing. True enlightenment isn't about sitting in meditation until you have perfectly pure motives before you dare to make a move. It is about accepting our messy, guilt-ridden, entirely imperfect humanity and choosing to help someone anyway. If you wait until your motives are spotless to buy that massage chair, your parent is going to spend their remaining years in pain. Act while you're flawed. The action itself is the enlightenment.
Which brings us right back to where we started, the number 0. That exact bank balance you might have left after that grand gesture. You've given everything away. In our modern world, seeing that 0 is terrifying. It means you have nothing left. It means you are completely and totally vulnerable. But let's contrast our perspectives one last time here. While a purely capitalist mindset sees a 0 balance as a tragic financial loss and a massive reduction of your personal freedom, Buddhist philosophy views this through the lens of kudoku. Kudoku is merit. It's unseen spiritual wealth. By draining your bank account to ease another person's pain, you haven't actually lost your wealth. You've just converted physical, depreciating money into an eternal, unseen spiritual asset. Sure, the number says 0, but you've essentially purchased a lasting peace of mind. So I want to leave you with this final thought, to really ponder about your own life and the people you care for. Can you practice the ultimate freedom of giving without expecting absolutely anything in return? Can you give your time, your money, or your love today and genuinely, truly not care if it is simply used as a decoration? Just think about how much lighter your life could be if you could. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.